If a little green is good, more is even better. Now, back to Green is Good with John Shigarian and Mike Brady.
Welcome back to Green is Good, and we're so excited today to have Paige Pederson on with us from LifeLock. Welcome to Green is Good, Paige.
Hi, John. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Paige.
Hey, Paige, you are a certified identity theft risk management specialist at LifeLock. You've been there since 2006. Paige, share with our listeners, before we get into all the workings of LifeLock and why our listeners in the United States and around the world should become members of your great organization and of your services, explain a little bit your journey, how you came to join in 2006, and how you've become a certified identity theft risk management specialist who basically is the manager of educational programs. Share your journey with our listeners first.
Well, what I did is I actually met one of the senior VPs, actually my current boss right now, through an internship that I did, and got the connection there. So when I'm originally a Midwest girl from Iowa, so moved out to Arizona, was connected with LifeLock, and was able to kind of start my career here at LifeLock. And so it's been such a pleasure starting, with a company that was only a year old at the time. So I've just been here 5 years, but one of the, starting 10. So it was just a great journey as far as learning about identity theft, and now I get to go educate folks about identity theft. So it truly has been fantastic.
And, when was LifeLock started, just so our listeners can get a little bit of line in the sand here?
Well, we were incorporated April 2005.
Wow. And you've been there almost then since the beginning. You joined, you said, in 2006?
Yes, that's right. So we started very small in a very small office, and now here we are. We're based in Tempe, Arizona, and have about 450 employees. So it's been a true terrific journey.
So wait a second. When you say very small and you giggled a little bit, and now you have 450, go back to this very small. How many employees, when you joined the company, approximately how many employees were there then?
I was employee number 11. So wow. If you can imagine, it was an office built for about 15 people. So starting in what we call a shoebox, we laugh of those days, and then going to what it is now. It's truly been a great journey for not only myself, but just a startup in general. There's people involved in a lot of startup companies, and quite, they're not as successful sometimes, but it's great to kind of, be fresh into the whole being part of a startup and then having it be as successful as it is. All
right, so truth in advertising, I subscribe to your great service, and I'm a big fan of your great service. I subscribe my wife and my children also. So I think what you do is great work, but there's a lot of listeners out there not familiar, a lot of listeners that need your service and don't even know it. So why don't we share a little bit about what LifeLock does and why people should sign up for your great services?
Well, LifeLock is a proactive identity theft protection company, and what we're doing out there, and when we say proactive, we're trying to go and put safeguards in place to help you not be a victim in the first place. So there's many points of contact throughout your day or throughout the month or year that you give your personal information in the hands of potentially a bad guy. And so what we're doing at LifeLock is potentially, trying to stop that identity theft before it happens, whether it's putting a place guard on your credit to make sure it's harder to get credit in your name, so when a bad guy does get your information, that it's harder. And I guess education is a big thing at LifeLock. We have it all over our website, educating consumers on how to protect themselves, not only by just getting our service, but what you can do for free, because that's really the big thing, is just knowing all the places that you're vulnerable, and we're there letting you know all these places and how to protect yourself in little bits at a time.
Got it. And for our listeners who just joined, we've got Paige Pederson on from LifeLock. And if you want to go see what Paige is talking about, if you have your laptop or your iPad or you're in front of your desktop while you're listening to Green is Good, go to www.lifelock.com, or you could call 1-800-LifeLock. Paige, so talk a little bit about what's going on today. Is identity theft on the rise? Is it on the fall? Are people really in danger of this, or is this more of the politics of fear?
Well, unfortunately, identity theft is reported as the number one growing crime in America right now.
Wow.
And when it comes to the Federal Trade Commission and then reporting, kind of what problems are the highest, they rate identity theft as the number one reported crime, according to the Federal Trade Commission. So it's definitely on the rise. And you'll hear more and more about it when it comes and involves things that you deal with daily. For instance, there's a lot of breaches. And what a breach is when a company loses your information, whether it's hacked into, maybe they don't recycle it correctly or get rid of their data correctly. But what happens, like, for instance, the big Sony breach that happened not even 2 months ago.
Right.
Millions of users are subscribed to Sony, and whether it's their PlayStations or gaming networks, and your information was exposed to, and potentially now you're going to see phishing emails come in from those breaches.
Got it. So if a company that you've done business with and that they have your information, whether it's a financial institution or, as you said, Sony and many others that we've read about recently, if our information was part of the information that was breached, you're saying, then we become vulnerable.
You really do. And, they have made a really great effort on sending you information. Like, for instance, we'll just use the Sony breach as an example. They sent their users an email that said potentially their full name and email address was exposed. Well, with that, anybody who has access to whatever got hacked into may potentially now send you phishing emails. What a phishing email is an email that looks like it's from a credible source, and it's going to give you information. It may be an email that says, your account's about to expire. It might be an offer that's too good to be true. But you click on the link that's in this email. It looks like it's from a credible source. You fill out the information. Once you push submit, they're asking for your account information, possibly your mother's maiden name, your Social Security number, all of that personal information. Potentially, now once you hit submit, you have no idea where that email goes, and now you have really opened yourself up to be vulnerable for identity theft.
That's so interesting. And so is there a profile page with regards to what the average American, when they do get breached or when there is some theft, how much potential money or, what kind of damage can be done? I mean, how bad, is there quantifiable how bad the crime really is against when identity theft happens?
Well, I do have this statistic for you.
Yeah.
Every breach, so 7 out of 10 people, if there's a breach of information, generally 7 out of 10 people have had fraud attempted on whether it's their credit, whether it's them trying to open up a credit. So, that right there, 70% of people could be potentially vulnerably opened up to identity theft without, being even notified yet. So it's a pretty scary statistic.
Wow. And, in terms of the amount of victims, is there a growing, you said it's the fastest growing crime in the United States. Besides, the breaches that we just talked about, well, how are other ways that people can become victims? And really what I'm asking for our listeners, because Mike and I love offering solutions, what are some of the solutions that people can use to protect themselves?
Well, we just discussed the phishing email. So that's
right.
Anything in regards to electronic. You've probably seen it. Have you gone to the doctor yet and you've had to fill out your information on an electronic tablet?
Yep.
Yeah, that just happened to me and my husband the other day, and I just couldn't believe that. You don't know. Is that network that they're on, is it encrypted? You don't know. See, so everybody is going to this electronic form. So now we get into electronic privacy. And, as far as encryption on their side and what they do to protect their information electronically. Same thing for yourself. If you're on internet and you mentioned iPads, laptops, a lot of us are connecting without a password. We'll go to, let's say, an internet cafe. Heck, even McDonald's has Wi-Fi these days. It's pretty funny to go into McDonald's and get your free Wi-Fi. But you're not typing in a password, which means it's not password-protected internet. And so when you go onto your websites where you're typing in a username or password, an account number, you are potentially opening yourself up for someone to look exactly on your screen and see exactly what you're typing. So opening yourself up to identity theft and fraud.
Hey, Paige, just real quick on that same subject. For example, say you walk into a Wi-Fi hotspot and you got your laptop or your iPhone and you just want to check some banking information. When you go to your bank site, isn't it true that to make sure that you look at the address that it's HTTPS before you go any further? The S is really key because that shows that it is a secure site.
You know what? Thanks for mentioning that. That S is very important. But keep in mind that security is on their side. They've passed certain encryption standards on their side. So it's really up to you as the user typing in your account information to make sure you're also on a secure site. So even though you're on a secure site, there could be somebody that is hacking into your computer at the same time because you are on free wireless and can see everything you're typing in. So whether or not you're on a secure site, they can, because you're not on your side, that's where it gets, the conflict, comes up and potentially you are less vulnerable.
So don't get lulled into a false sense of security if you're accessing a secure site from a public place.
Absolutely. We definitely recommend at LifeLock that you should leave all of that online banking, checking your emails, where you have to type in username and password, to when you are on a secure location. So, for instance, at work, at home, I know these places are secure because I have a username and password when I get on the internet. Otherwise, just leave it to your everyday surfing, whether you're reading the news, playing games, something like that, where you don't have to type in a username and password.
But nothing confidential.
Right. And, it's not always realistic you might have to check your bank information when you go to one of these hotspot places. But if that's the case, when you do get into a secure location, maybe you have to check it really quick when you're on the road, but then when you get home, change your username and password, or not username, but at least change your password when you get home. That way, it's not left open forever. It's just open for just a little bit if they did capture your information.
For our listeners who just joined, we've got Paige Hansen on from LifeLock. And if people think about, what is Paige Hansen from LifeLock doing on Green is Good? Well, as Mike always says, this is a show about sustainability. And we talk about people, planet, and profits. And today, with regards to LifeLock, this is such an important message that Mike and I wanted our listeners to hear with regards to protecting the people, protecting our listeners and their loved ones, because identity theft, as Paige just said earlier in the show, is the fastest growing crime right now in America. So this show was dedicated to protecting the people who listen to the show and the people that they get to affect and touch, because this crime has got to be stopped, and we've got to use great services like LifeLock to do that. And again, Mike and I have no financial connection with LifeLock, but I am a client of LifeLock's, and I've been for 2 years and have had no problems since my family did have a problem once. So we're very thrilled with LifeLock services. We're proud to have them on today. And if you'd like to check out more about their services, you could go to www.lifelock.com, 1-800-LifeLock. Paige, talk to our listeners now a little bit about how they can use your services. How can they avail themselves of your services? What do your services do? What's the cost involved? And what's the easiest way to engage LifeLock to protect yourself?
Well, there's two different plans with LifeLock. There's the basic plan, and then there's a plan called Command Center. The basic plan is going to be $10 a month. It is per individual, since we're protecting, each individual Social Security number. And these plans include, one, I must know that there is a child protection that we offer for $2.50 a month, because children are the most vulnerable age for identity theft. Why? Because they're not using their credit. So when they become, 16, 17, 18, they might be getting their driver's license, applying for their first job, maybe college, and they're realizing they've been a victim for 10-plus years. Right. So we find it very, very important to protect the identities of the children as well.
Got it. So $10 per month for an adult, $2.50 for children. How does it work? What are you really buying? What does your service do once a person signs up for $10 a month?
So once you sign up, what we're going to do is request your annual credit report. Now, this is something when we want everybody to know this is something you can do yourself. This first part is requesting your annual credit reports from each credit bureau. But we do that on your behalf because it's a convenience.
Right.
So we'll request them. And the good thing about checking your credit report every year is you're able to see what you have opened up in your name, and what credit cards, what other line of credits that you have open. Because if there is something on there that's not supposed to be, it's so much easier to get it taken care of now than, when you are going to go use your credit and your score really matters. So that's the first thing we do. Second thing, we're going to put all of our alerts in place. The first alert that we're going to do is our identity alert system. So what it does is we're proactively going out there and making sure if there's any line of credit opened up in your name, making sure it matches what we have in our system. Because, for example, I'm here located in Tempe, Arizona. If someone was to open up a line of credit with my name, my Social Security number, but a New York address, that is a huge red flag in our system because everything that I have is either based in Iowa, where I used to be from, or and Arizona, the only two places where I've lived. So I would get an alert, and they'd let me know that a line of credit has been opened up in my name. If I did not open that line of credit, I contact LifeLock, and they'll help me resolve the issue, which is another big benefit of LifeLock is we resolve the issue if you do become a victim or you realize you're a victim prior to signing up for us. We help you resolve the problem. And that's the big, the bang for your buck right there is because on average, the identity theft victim is going to spend at least 30 hours cleaning up their identity theft. So whether they're writing letters, waiting online, waiting on the phone, anything like that, they're going to spend 30 hours. And we're the ones that take care of that for you.
Wow. Okay, so you sign up, and the protection starts immediately. And so what happens if the bad guys somehow, like you said, not of our own fault, as you were pointing out earlier, of maybe a company that got accessed or got breached and our information gets exposed? How do you then make sure that we're protected from outside breaches and exposures?
Well, that's the thing about identity theft. There is not one way to 100% protect yourself.
Okay.
A company like LifeLock takes certain steps to proactively protect you, to put safeguards in place to help minimize your risk. And that's why we have on the back end our resolution, because if something does happen, or I should say when something might happen, because there are so many places that you give your personal information, we can't go to every single doctor's office that you have been to or dentist's office and ask how they, protect your information. So that's why on the back end we just have that whole blanket resolution. We actually have a team that resolves each issue if there is an issue, and we do it that way since there is not one company that can, protect you of everything. So it's you definitely feel a little bit more safe when you do have a protection like LifeLock.
There's more types of fraud than just identity theft. And Mike and I are on your great website right now, and it talks about tax fraud, benefits fraud, government document fraud, bank, employment, phone. Are these all part of the protection that LifeLock gives?
It is. For instance, let's just use fraudulent tax returns.
Right.
From 2008 to 2010, there was a 380% increase in fraudulent tax returns.
Wow.
I mean, that is huge. And so what's happening is these identity thieves are getting hold of your personal information, submitting their tax return for, let's say, early January, and let's say you don't get around to it till late March, early April, and you submit your tax return, and then you get a letter back that says, "Oh, I'm sorry, your tax return's already been submitted."
Right.
I mean, what a horrible feeling, right?
Right.
I mean, or let's say somebody is stealing your tax returns.
Right.
Tax season is kind of like the identity thieves' dream time, because when you're getting your tax documents sent to you via postal mail, I mean, literally every mailbox in America at that time probably has a piece of, mail that contains their Social Security number, their full name, date of birth, all of that information in just one document.
Right.
Pretty scary, right?
Very scary.
And we leave it in our mailbox. Maybe we don't have a locked mailbox, and we don't check our mail every day. The tax season is definitely the time where you need to get that mail as soon as possible, because that's what identity thieves are doing. We call the tax return kind of the keys to your kingdom, because it has every single piece of information on you that an identity thief needs to open up a new line of credit.
So $250 for children, $10 a month for adults. Talk about protecting businesses. What service does LifeLock have for businesses?
For businesses, we don't have one that encompasses just the business itself.
Okay.
But what we do is we protect individual employees and their families.
Okay.
So maybe a business asks us to offer it as an employee benefit, and maybe they'll subsidize it, maybe they won't. Maybe it's something that you opt into. But that's generally what businesses will come with, is they'll offer it as an incentive or an employee benefit.
Oh, that's wonderful. So businesses can get the program and then offer it as an employee benefit. Paige, I remember the iconic commercial, the $1 million total service guarantee commercial when you guys pretty much started the company. Is that not correct?
Yes, yeah, that's the one.
And talk a little bit about, that guarantee and how it really works and why it's really so important that you guys back your company the way you do and back your services with that kind of guarantee.
Well, our $1 million total service guarantee is, first of all, $1 million. People think, so if I get a charge on my credit card that's not mine, do I get $1 million? No, that's not what it is. But what it is, it's a big guarantee because we really want to guarantee that you are safe. And if we can't resolve the problem, if we can't get you your money back, well, we're going to pay you, and we're going to pay you for that time, because it's already a headache enough that, you have all these things going on in your life, and to worry about identity theft and spending the hours that are needed to protect yourself and resolve the problem. That's where our guarantee comes in, because it really does provide peace of mind that, somebody's out there looking out for you, and then if something happens, we're resolving the problem.
Got it. And now, I just as a little disclaimer, this is not available, that guarantee, to New York State residents, because New York State law doesn't allow that to be used in New York State. Correct. And so we have our team actually working out different ways that we can protect people in New York. So so hopefully we'll be coming out with that soon, later in the summer, where we can, provide protection for them as well. Paige, we're down to the last minute or so, and you've been so amazing and helpful in sharing this very important service for our listeners to protect themselves and protect their loved ones and their assets. Do you have any final comments with regards to the great services that LifeLock provides for our listeners to hear from you?
I think the best thing to do is get familiar. If you have any questions regarding identity theft, and maybe it might not even be about our service, but just links of possible information that can help you educate yourself or your friends, to visit our LifeLock.com and see all the things we do that we don't necessarily, we have our service, but there's great things we're doing in the community as well. We train law enforcement when it comes one-day identity theft summits. And that's actually the program that I get to manage, and it's great that we've been in front of almost 5,000 law enforcement individuals, and helping them protect themselves and know how to then assist the victims, which is potentially the listeners and consumers of identity theft.
Well, thank you very much. And Paige, we're so thrilled that you came on today, Mike and I, and our listeners, of course. And for our listeners out there that would like to learn more about LifeLock or use their services, please go to www.lifelock.com or 1-800-LifeLock. You could call 1-800-LifeLock. Paige Hansen, you are making the world a safer and better place and are truly living proof that green is good.